Good morning, colleagues, and welcome to the CSIR. My presentation is supposed to be, it's a simple one, it's an overview of the South African cannabis and hemp industry, and I'm presenting it together with my colleague, Dr. Gordon. I'm the research group leader, agro-processing at the CSIR. So this is a presentation outline. I'm going to discuss a little overview of the cannabis and the uses for those. I mean, everybody here should know cannabis by now. Some of the legislative framework and where we are right now in that area, stakeholder mapping, technology landscape, the challenges and markets, some of the extraction technologies, which David has highlighted some of them, analytics, process and product development, and just to show off a little bit on our infrastructure. Well, this is cannabis. Many people get a little bit confused, but cannabis belongs to the family Cannabiceae. And under that cannabis, the genus is cannabis, and then we have three different species, that is sativa, indica, and ruderalis. Then, interestingly, the sativa also has the hemp and the marijuana, and we put a little bit of description or characteristics of the different varieties. So for hemp, it's a little bit slightly taller than the marijuana. And you can, if you look on the list, those are some of the things for you to separate, to distinguish between cannabis and hemp. And another thing which I found very interesting is also on the leaf shape, in that the sativa leaves are different from the indica. On the picture on the right, the sativa leaves are different from the indica and also from the ruderalis. So those are some of the ways that you can easily identify the different varieties. Now, hemp has so many uses. I'm not going to spend so much time on it. And hemp grows a little bit different from cannabis. This also, let me correct myself, depends on the type of hemp that you want, because we have hemp for fiber, you have hemp for seeds, you have hemp for, there are different types of hemp varieties. I say to myself, because the Department of Agriculture and Land Reforms, Rural Development, they've given out permits. I just hope that people know what they want, they're supposed to plant, because when the permits were open, there were floods of applications. And people really know, what do they want to do? Do we want to grow fiber, or do I want to grow seeds, or do I want to do oil? Or, that must be taken into consideration before you start planting your crop. And of course, this is on cannabis. Most of the key thing there is where we have on the red right down here on the dominant uses, which is mainly recreational and also the medicinal uses of this particular plant. I tried to just put them according to the importance, because I mentioned marijuana on the left. You use it mainly for clinical uses, neurological disorders, nutraceuticals, confectionaries, and you can also use them for recreational building materials is for hemp, mine rehabilitation for hemp, bioremediation hemp, and then fiber for clothing. All of those on the right is mainly hemp. For the marijuana is mainly on the medicinal and the recreational. Now let's talk a little bit about the key thing in this business, which is the legislative framework. We have mainly the major regulations in governing the use of cannabis in South Africa, mainly the Medicines and Related Substances Act, the Drugs and Drug Trafficking Act, the Criminal Procedure Act. And then in 2018, after the Concord judgment, we started having some changes in some of these acts. We now have the Cannabis for Private Use Bill, which is this week. Actually, this week is in Parliament, so we'll need to know by next week what is going to happen with the cannabis for private use. I hope it's good news. There may be modifications, we don't know. And then also we had the amendment to the Plant Improvement Act, which led to the hemp going to the Department of Agriculture, Land Reforms and Rural Development. So they are now issuing the permits for hemp, because they see it now like a normal agricultural plant, because it has a very low THC. And then we have the amendment to the Medicines Control Act, which had to deal with the CBD levels, putting THC now as Schedule 6 and cannabidiol and therapeutic use as Schedule 4. And then we also have the draft National Cannabis Master Plan, which supposed to be, the president mentioned that in his speech in February is it March or February? I think it's March, right? February, yeah. But there's a lot of hype now going into it. It has not been approved. It is still, as if you could go to the next slide, let me just run through this is the National Cannabis Master Plan. It has 9 pillars. Actually, it has 7 pillars with education and communication supporting it. So the first pillar there is the effective regulatory system. The second one is sustainable seed supply system, research technology development, sustainable producer support, market development, supplier development systems, manufacturing and product development. So you see, it covers most of the sectors or the value chain in cannabis. And then we have education and training, which is supposed to support these systems, and communication and awareness. Now, the plan has been, we have input from the private sector, from NGOs, from all the other sectors that can give value to have a national cannabis master plan. But where we are right now is that the government is looking at the different policies that, because you can't have a plan that doesn't stand on policies. The policies kind of dictate on what, that's where we are right now. Once those policies are in place, then this plan will go through. We also know that different provincial governments also are working on their own provincial master plan, but they may have to wait until the National Cannabis Master Plan is launched before they can also launch theirs. This is where we are on licenses and permits. In South Africa now, we have 56 licenses that were issued by SUPRA as of March 2022. And for the licenses, they take around one year. For some people, it takes longer. But if you have everything in dock, it should go through within 4 to 6 months if everything is in place. The license is around 23,980. And for the permits, which is issued by SUPRA, is around, it's now 950. This is the current price as at 2022. And they also issue permits for I won't say marijuana, for high THC, also for research institutions and universities like ours. The permits for hemp are issued mainly by Department of Agriculture, Land Reforms and Development, and it started in October. The people started applying, but we're very hopeful that most of these permits will be out by May, because they had to do a lot of due diligence. And you must understand that SUPRA was the one issuing these permits on hemp, but now they've transferred it to Department of Agriculture, so they have to put their ducks in place to get it right. But we're hopeful that farmers should start getting their permits around May, latest June, because you don't want to miss the next planting season. And they need to plan also. And then we have just one authorized clinical trials, which is for Labat, has got one authorized clinical trial in the country. We don't have medicines that are registered in South Africa. So those are some of the things we have to take into consideration. David mentioned that most of the products that we have now are imported. So we need to start producing ours here in South Africa, because the markup prices are a little bit too high. And most of the seeds also that are being grown in South Africa are imported. That's another thing. But the good news also is that DARAD has made provisions for registration of seeds. And also we should take advantage of that to register most of our very good strains. This is just a stakeholder mapping. It's a very complex diagram, but all I want to show you is that there are many players in the value chain. So if you look at the top, it starts from the genetics and the seeds, cultivation, right up to distribution. And these are the stake players. You have government, you have operators, researchers, advocacy groups, associations, and I mean, it's a long list on the left. So those are the players that are in the cannabis stakeholder that play a role in the cannabis sector. So if we look at the technology landscape also, I decided this slide, what I did is I put the output and the technology. So you need a lot of technology for you to get some of the products out. And South Africa has most of these technologies, as you can see from my next slide. And my next slide is talking only about what CSIR has. And if we've done a little bit on Gauteng to see what is in the province. So we have most of it. If you look at, for example, genetics and seeds, you need to know what kind of seeds you are working. You need to check on different propagation techniques. Do you want to use clones? Do you want to use seeds? Cloning, by what I mean by cloning is that, do you want to use tissue culture, which is what I would prefer, or do you want to use cuttings, But if you use clonal materials, the good thing about clonal materials is that your plants are going to be uniform all through. We have all this in South Africa. On cultivation, that is where most of the people are planning. We have some good greenhouses, some good glass houses, the climate is good in certain areas. And this is the output is what comes on the top in my slide. And then if you look at processing, we here at the CSIR, many universities and many companies also are very strong in this area. We have most of these equipments that can produce most of these products. So we're just waiting for the regulations to be okay, and then we start producing most of them. These are some of the challenges that I try to highlight. There are many, but I just try to highlight some of the key challenges, which is legislative. As I mentioned before, we hope most of these policies and master plans go through so that we can start doing business. And then public perception. But like I said, on public perception, the government is doing communications department is working on it. Proliferation of illegal products of the cannabis. I think when we start producing our products, which are of high quality, we won't be having things like that also in the market, because we will have local advantage. And I'm hoping DTIC will also try to do something to try to encourage local production. And then the high entry barriers. For this one, government is doing something about it. The seed supply, right now, most of the seeds we are importing. That shouldn't be like that. We should start producing our seeds. Research and development limited, funding of research and commercialization not very prominent, different regulations and standards in different markets. What this means is that Germany will say this is our regulation, Lesotho will say this is ours, so the bar is different. And I'll tell you that Europe will always raise the bar if they don't want your product to come in, or America or Canada. That's what they do. They look at what can we do to make sure that we get the best in. These are just the markets. Currently, the US is one of the largest markets. And if you could see on this, let me just go through this one here. The forecast here is around 792,047. This is for medicinal cannabis, and around we're talking about billions here. So it's a lot of money in it, but we need to get it right to make sure we get these billions. This is our colleagues. This is an old slide. David mentioned what is happening in Lesotho and how the government is fully involved in the cannabis sector in Lesotho. I mean, yesterday they had a facility that was launched by the minister, by the prime minister, not even the minister. The 4 ministers on that particular occasion. That's very encouraging, and it shows how committed the government also in supporting the industry. This is the global Africa, mainly the global market on the left, and on the right is this is more on recreational, and Nigeria is leading on recreational, followed by Ethiopia. South Africa is down, is I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is number 5, but this is more on recreational. This is the most recent on the market, on CBD market. I got this yesterday. The market is a market research done by Research and Markets, and the 2021 market is around 87.7 million. And then they are forecasting that in 2026 is going to be around 406.3 million. This is mainly on the CBD industry, let me correct that, with a CAGR of around 28.4%. So there's enough growth in this sector. This was a recent report that came this month, we're in April, last month. And Prohibition Partners also published something last year in 2021, and this is their forecast also. I think there's a correlation between both of them. What is important here is that if you look at the product types, you have flowers, concentrate, and others. And if you look at the compounds, you have THC, CBD, and there are some big numbers there. Then they are also forecasting that for South Africa, the areas that, especially on the medicinal side, the areas that will have a lot of impact will be in pain management, neurological health, mental health, and cancers and others. And then recreational comes lower. So that's what they are forecasting for the South African market on the medicinal cannabis. I was talking about the infrastructure. This is just the CSIR. CSIR is a big campus. It's around 2,500 employees with around 350 PhDs. So it's a big house of brains and the top range facilities in the country. And from the infrastructure side, this is all, and the skill side, all of this is in-house. This is just one institution. If you take TUT, take University of Pretoria, take, so everything is here. We just need to make it happen. I got this slide from the National Cannabis Master Plan because one of the things we have to do is that we don't have to forget the smallholders, okay, small growers. And so this is something that was proposed by the Department of Agriculture and Land Reforms. And they said that if we could have centralized facilities where people can bring their products, especially for processing, and also for when they process together, you have farmers, they bring it to this facility here, and then it goes to a manufacturing facility. Somebody must be responsible to make sure the quality here is okay. And then it goes now to a manufacturing facility and then local market. They were just making propositions on what's the best way to have an inclusive market, especially in the medicinal cannabis sector, which has lots of regulations. Okay, and this is just quickly, it's going to take 5 minutes, what we're doing at the CSIR. We've collected most of the flowers in the country in South Africa. With our colleagues, they helped us in getting some of it. We're still working with other role players to see how we can get most of the flowers into the country, into our labs. Our intention this year is to have a monograph of our South African strains here in South Africa, because if you have a monograph, that is like your Bible. And we're working with that with some universities. We're going to start doing it here at the CSR. We've done different alcohol extraction technologies. We've optimized on them. And we're going to also have now our CO2 extraction technology, which is coming by next month. By next month, we're supposed to have it on campus. Our extraction yields are around 18 to 20%. This is full extract cannabis oil, and we've perfected on downstream processing. And right now we're doing, focusing on product formulation. We're going to put a call this year to try and work with some entrepreneurs, see what kind of products they have, depending on where they are on the value chain, and see how we can improve on their products to make sure that those products can be sold internationally. Of course, what we'll be looking is mainly safety, quality, and also the efficacy. This is how we started with this. Those who did chemistry in high school. My colleague, Dr. Greg Gordon, when we started, they said we must do something. So we started from here, but we got FECO on the right, as you can see. We've graduated from these 2-liter containers. We're now using a 100-liter container. We're using this 100-liter container now. On the right here, this says the temperatures can go right up to -20, and the one in front 120. So we don't use it only for cannabis. We use it also for medicinal plants for extraction. And then you have this rotor here that rotates it, and then you can get your product at the bottom here. We're thinking of going one step higher this year. So we've also made quotations to have something. This is locally made here in South Africa, but we're looking on getting some more sophisticated equipment this year. This is not what I don't think it's exactly like this, but it looks like this. This is a Rolls Royce. So this is the CO2 supercritical we're going to have. On the right also is the SUPRA oil purifier. So we want something that will be simple, that you put your leaves, your extract there, and then get your, what we call the gold, cannabis, the golden oil, what you will see in my next slide. So this is what will be happening in the next 3 months. When you get your extracting materials, you do some distillation. You do your distillation. We have 20, 30 liter rotavapors that can do that to reduce the concentrate. And then we've perfected also here on analytics. This is very important. Especially if we're going to look at our local strains, we need to know what is inside. So we've done now, it took us some time to get it right, but now we can identify most of the key cannabinoids that are in most of the plants. And that is a plus for us. And we also can quantify it, not only qualitative, we do qualitative and quantitative. So that is something different. So we can tell you that in this plant X, this is the quantity of TS of cannabigerol that is in it. This is the quantity of CBN that is in it, like that. And this also helps when you are looking down in the medicinal space, because we're going to do different combinations of most of these cannabinoids for different therapeutic areas. So there's a road down we are looking at where we want to go. We want to also start competing with the big guys. Not competing, collaborating with the big guys. Let me not. And then and these are some of the work that we're doing in our labs. We can clearly get the oil, as you can see. We developed some technologies also to remove the chlorophyll and the wax to have the sample, as you can see on the right. These are some of our equipments we have here. This is a spray dryer. We have the ones that can, this is the one on the right is a Rolls Royce, actually. This equipment can spray dry 40 to 50 liters within 1 hour. And I think it's a commercial equipment and can be used for work like this. We've used it, as you can see from the next slide. These are some of the products that we get from it. So why I'm showing this is that from here now, you can have different combinations to put into capsules. So it's from this powder now that you put into capsules. And we have capsule machines here. We have tableting machines here. We have all of that at our facilities at the CSIR. I showed this slide, I'm running a little, I wanted to show this slide just to show you what you can do with the oil. And there is a lot you can do from the oil, the same like what you can do from the powder also, which we call it distillate or isolates. You can do a lot with it. And then this is from where you start producing products. So when you get this now, then you start producing your products that you can sell now in the market. And these are some of the products. These are some of from Houghton here. People bring their products. So we're going to start working with this product to see how we can improve them. You may see some of them, but they have their own pitfalls, which we can work it easily here at the CSIR. This is a lip balm on the left. What we realized is that when you leave it for some time, the stability was very poor. It had bubbles. The one on the green one, which you're seeing on the left, in winter, it doesn't, but those are small things that we can tweak and it will work. Next slide. I just wanted to show some of the products that are already in the market. These ones, most of them are not even by South Africans, but we can do things like this. That's just what I want to highlight. We can also do it ourselves. And just a quick one on hemp. The South Africa, and especially the CSIR and a consortium of ARC, Eastern Cape Development, House of Hemp, they did a lot of work on hemp, and we were even producing the doors of Mercedes-Benz, as you can see on the right, C-Class. So you use the hemp because it's like a cushion. It doesn't bend easily. You use it at the doors of Mercedes-Benz, and this was a long time ago, it stopped. So we can do these things. We can do them. Okay, now just to showcase this is some of our facilities. I said I'm going to show off, but everybody is invited to come and see. These are our facilities at the CSIR. Most of this one is in our group, what you see here on the right, but CSIR is big. So we have different sectors, mining, defense, building. So this is just the biochemical side, and you can imagine what we can do. I think that's just to thank the participants, some of them that we're working with, and I thank you all. Thank you.